Hello everyone. This is the 14th part of the story, Percy Jackson, the God of Magic. Chapter 66. After my talk with the overpowered grandmas, I entered the camp transforming into a cat, and by that I mean, fully transforming into a cat, no illusion. While the idea of claiming a realm was more than enticing, I wasn't entirely sure how the Roman aspects would welcome me. While I had Hestia's word they were more amiable in some ways, I decided to be careful, for all I knew they would also think I was working with Kronos, or in this case Saturn. With that little thought in mind, I decided it was best to infiltrate the camp to gather valuable information about what the gods thought of me, and only once I was sure of them not desiring to hunt me, I would openly show myself. In the meantime I would meow my way to victory. I have the strange need of pushing valuable stuff to the floor, I thought as I walked through the camp. Maybe I should have picked another animal, one with less assholey tendencies. Taking a deep breath I shook my head, and decided to focus on the task at hand, at paw. After all, I would have time to judge my animal decision for this mission. Camp Jupiter was big and less campy, and what I meant by that was that the kids in here behaved like a trained military force. I had walked for a good 10 minutes around then and none of them had decided to pet me. Granted I would probably scratch the fuck out of them, but still. I like to feel wanted, as any cat. Okay, maybe a cat wasn't the right option. Aren't you an adorable little fellow, someone said, finally picking me up. It was fucking time. Yeah. I shouldn't have definitely picked a cat. The one that had picked me up was a girl around 12 years old. Her skin was a milky brown chocolate, allowing her face to show some shades of pink of her cheeks, her hair and eyes being a bit darker going very well with her skin. My name is Raina, what's yours, little friend? Raina was her name. What an interesting development. Meow, I purred. What? She was petting me, and she was very, very good at finding that weird spot in my back. How about I call you Mr. Soft? Raina offered, and at that I hissed, Mr. Soft? How dare she? Yes, I was very soft. I had picked a Persian cat as my cover, making sure I had the fluffiest and softest petting hair, but I would not be named Mr. Soft. I deserved a better name, the Destructor, the Almighty, something like that. Okay, Raina giggled, how about Genesis? Genesis? Well, I suppose that is more acceptable, so at that, I trilled a meow and a purr at the same time, letting her know I accepted the name, for now. I see, so now Genesis. How did you get into the camp? Raina inquired, her voice going dangerously low, her petting stopping dead on its tracks. I narrowed my eyes at her, and hissed. Will take you to my superiors, they ought to know how a cat entered the camp, Raina sighed. Interesting. As I saw it now I had two options, letting her take me to her godly superiors, and see if I could trick them, which was a very valid possibility. Zeus tricked Hera to marry him as a bird, or I could scratch this bitch and run, maybe this time changing into a bird, which in retrospect was a better option. What was I thinking, transforming into a cat? As a bird I would be able to survey the camp through the skies, then again I would also lose the chance of getting pets. Oh well, scratching it is. Taking a deep breath I turned around, showing her my belly, setting the deadly trap for my scratch. As expected she couldn't resist my fluffy and soft belly, it was the fluffiest after all. So with a little cat smile forming on my face, I yowled at the girl scratching her hand, which in turn made her drop me. And ran. Lesson 1: when petting a street cat, never pet the belly, it's always a trap, it's always a trap. After my little altercation with Raina, I ran into the woods and transformed into a raven, which was the intellectual choice, and the option I should have picked the first time. I don't know what I was thinking transforming into a cat. Now that I had wings, I surveyed the camp with ease, learning its layout and how the campers behaved, which was what I wanted to know. After all, if the Roman aspects were also out to get me, then their kids would know. And so far I had yet to hear any demigod say let's go and maim the sexy Adam. Why are you spying on the kids? A raven asked, flying to my side, but it was clear it was no normal raven. The power coming from this feathery one was massive. Whoever it was stronger than me, which was troubling, so for now, I would comply and answer the questions while I figure out how to escape if things got messy. Though for some reason I felt I was in no real danger, as if this god of goddess in raven form would never hurt me. Curiosity, I cawed, shaking my thoughts a bit. I see, the overpowered bird in question replied, before asking, who are you? Adam. Not sure if that helps though, I cawed, deciding it was best to land on a tree and transform back to my humanoid form. Taking my transformation as a cue, the other raven did the same, transforming back into what I assumed was her humanoid form. And yes, the raven was a she. Adam, the supposed traitor of the Greeks. Her form was oddly familiar though. My name is Vesta, Hestia's Roman aspect greeted. No wonder I felt no real threat. A pleasure to meet you, I smiled at her, extending my hand at her. You are not what I assumed, possible traitor, Vesta sighed, taking my hand and giving me a handshake. Chapter 67. Vesta was strangely similar and very different to Hestia. Physically they looked like twins, which I suppose in a way they were. But psychologically, is where the differences started. Hestia was more openly friendly, Vesta was. I don't know. More serious? It was basically like talking to a more serious and to the point Hestia. It was weird because at times I would forget who I was talking to. Did you really betray the Greeks? Vesta asked. No, they simply chose to believe I did, and now I'm being hunted, I sighed, with the hauntingly painful thought of my sister shooting at me with the intent to kill. The only ones that believed in me were Hestia, Hades and Persephone. I see, Vesta smiled, no wonder you feel so comfortable with me. I do, but it's also weird, not gonna lie, I chuckled. I suppose it can be, Vesta admitted with a chuckle of her own, but it is what it is. So what now? I asked her. Well, now we talk to Jupiter. Vesta answered, he will let you know if you have asylum with us or not. If you do, I suppose you will have to take a realm and represent us. Just like that? What's up with people offering realms left and right? Well, I don't know how the Greeks do it, but here we don't have a god for each realm, and it's not every day a god without a realm appears out of thin air, Vesta clarified. Many of us have to fill for realms we don't even have a connection for, like poor trivia. I see, but still, isn't that a bit too trusting? I mean, what was to say I would not betray them at any given time? Well, in a way it is, but how can you truly trust someone if you don't give them a chance? Vesta smiled. Sometimes we have go burn ourselves to see if someone is trustworthy or not. That was very deep, and somewhat risky, but I suppose I understood her reasoning. I see, well. Before we go, I have a question. On the scale of 1 to 10, how likely is Jupiter to smite me? Frankly? A 2, Vesta answered, her eyes shining with mild amusement. He is not as aggressive as his Greek aspect. Well, ain't that a relief, I see. Talking about aspects, a little rule we have here is, don't tell the demigods about our counterparts, Vesta said, her tone carrying more weight than before. Human opinion alters our form, and gives us a very bad headache. In your case as a god you don't really affect us, but the kids. They would give all of us a massive headache. Very well, I nodded, taking note of that if I ever needed to fight the Roman pantheon. Now follow me, I already informed Jupiter of your presence, and he wants to meet you, Vesta informed me. Lead the way, I bowed for dramatic purposes, wondering how this meeting would go. Adam, the Greek traitor, Jupiter greeted, and I wondered, was the traitor part necessary? Jupiter, the king of the Roman pantheon, I smiled. Vesta told me you were spying on our kids, Jupiter muttered, his eyes narrowing at me in something akin to anger, making me flinch inwardly. At least, the tension was so big I could probably cut it with a butter knife. Spying is a big word. I was simply curious about the Roman pantheon, and wanted to see if they would offer me asylum. I lied. So I was told, Jupiter sighed, but before I give you an answer, as soon as he said that, a god appeared by his side, looking oddly familiar. Phoebus, check if he lies. There was a not-so-hidden threat under that if I lied I would die. I will answer your questions to the best of my ability, I smiled, feeling emotionally constipated at the fact I was facing Apollo's Roman aspect. Did you betray the Greeks? Jupiter asked. Going for the big boy questions, I see. No, they betrayed me, believing an idiot over me. He says the truth, Father, Phoebus stated. Do you have any ulterior motives that can hurt us? Jupiter asked, and for a moment I froze. Was trying to merge Hestia and Vesta an ulterior motive? No, I answered, ready to run if that turned out to be a lie. I wasn't sure myself, which is why I was ready to run like a bitch. He says the truth, Father, Phoebus stated once again, much to my relief. Last question, would you consider taking a role in our pantheon? Jupiter asked. This was feeling remarkably like a job interview. I would, as long as I'm free to travel. I have friends around the world, I answered. Jupiter looked at Phoebus, who nodded. Very well, that seems like a reasonable request. You see, as Vesta has told you, we have various realms without gods, some with gods that don't have a real connection to them, like Trivia. She is the goddess of crossroads, but we had to appoint her the realm of magic, to which she has no connection. I see, I nodded. Then we have other realms that have no gods managing them. Jupiter sighed, and yes, this was definitely a job interview, so, here is my offer, we will offer you asylum, if you agree to become a Roman god. And what am I now? I asked, with mild curiosity. A pantheonless god, Jupiter answered, which is why I want you to work with us. How in the fuck were Zeus and him the same being? They shared nothing in common, well, maybe their promiscuity, but besides that, nothing. Very well. I accept the deal, I stated, if this was going to give me power like the super grandmas said. I would be more than happy to take it. Very well, Jupiter nodded, call the Percy, we need to know what realms can he manage. Who knew becoming a god was so stupidly easy? I have to admit, I was happy to have this golden opportunity to prank new victims. All the Roman children and some gods would suffer at the hands of Adam the pranking master. Chapter 68. I saw as the Percy or super grandmas entered the room, all looking at me, filling me with a sense of dread and uncertainty I didn't like. The pantheonless god, one of the three sisters muttered. He can fill many realms, Jupiter, the question is, will you let him? Jupiter looked at them, pressing his lips together in mild annoyance, his body language showing clear rejection to the sisters. It seemed Zeus and his Roman aspect had more than it originally showed in common, like disliking the fates. What realms can he rule? Jupiter inquired, his right hand tapping his throne in anticipation. The young god has a strong connection with the magic realm, one of the three sisters answered, but that is not the only realm he has a strong connection with. Get to the point, Jupiter demanded in a cold manner. Mischief and trickery, he has a strong connection with both, the sisters said in one voice. Creepy. No wonder nobody liked them, but I think the reason nobody liked them was because they had the power to end anyone they wanted to end, including Zeus and/or Jupiter. The only ones above them were the primordials, meaning the gods, were dancing in their old hands. Well, we already have Mercury with the realm of trickery, Jupiter sighed. Then, it has been decided, Adam, do you accept the realm of magic and mischief? This seriously couldn't be the process of acquiring godhood. And I just remembered Zeus had given god realms to idiots just because they have his blood. I do. Then by the power given to me, as the king of the Roman pantheon, I welcome you Adamus, the god of magic and mischief to our pantheon, Jupiter stated, with a tone of finality, daring anyone present to defy him. Thanks, I gave the king a small bow, wondering where was the part where I would have to swear my loyalty or something to them. Why am I even thinking of that? This is an awesome deal for me. I don't have to follow them if things get bad for me. Before you come forth and claim your realms, Jupiter said, there is but one rule, one that I will not tolerate you or anyone breaking. As the god of mischief, I have a feeling you will prank everybody. He had a point, and I will allow it, as long as you don't prank me. Okay, I have to ask, risking to fuck this deal. At that Phoebus snorted, why, are you guys being so trusting with me? A very good question, Jupiter nodded. The Percy saw you come, hundreds of years before you were born, with that information. We waited, and once you were born, we spied on you, and we have a very good general idea of who you are. Wait, they spied on me, so he was faking not knowing me? We know that as long as we don't hurt those who you hold dear, we will have no problems with you. If the Greeks can't see that, then they are even more stupid than I originally thought. That is scaringly accurate. I see, I nodded, not knowing how to feel about the fact they had spied on me for years. Then come, Jupiter said, extending his hand, claim the realms that belong to you. With trepidation I took his hand, and what I can only describe as a surge of energy exploded within me. It was very hard to describe. Welcome to the Roman pantheon, young god, you are dismissed for the moment. With that Jupiter went back to his throne, and Vesta and I teleported out of the room. I felt massively more powerful. My body and everything, I felt like a completely different person altogether, but in my shock I couldn't help but wonder, why did the super grandmas share the bit about challenging a god for their realm? If in the first place I was not going to challenge anyone, were they telling me I would do that in the future? Was that a part of my future? God, why can gods be a bit more to the point? So, how do you feel? Vesta inquired. Good, just wondering what the Percy tried to convey during our first encounter, I chuckled, it simply didn't make any sense. They are mysterious beings, Vesta sighed. Perhaps I can help you with that, if you are willing to tell me what they told you. For a moment I weighed my options. If I told Vesta, Jupiter would know. Was that something I wanted, or would Vesta keep our conversation between us? Fuck it, they told me I could challenge gods for their realms if I had a connection to the realms I was challenging. It wasn't like this information would get me in trouble. I see, Vestia nodded. I can't see why you are confused, considering the realms were given to you without a challenge, mostly because the gods that had those two realms wanted nothing to do with them, and gave Jupiter permission to hand them when the time came, so I don't know what would they tell you that. Oh well, I shrugged, I suppose I will know in time. For the moment, I will go and prank everybody, I added with a maniacal laugh. Nothing life-threatening please, Vesta chuckled. Nah. Don't worry, I usually go for humiliating pranks that tend to be mind-scarring. I grinned and teleported before she could say or do anything. After all, I had a bunch of kids to traumatize. Juno point of view. Adam, or rather Adamus, was not what I expected. The visions the Percy shared with us showed a kid unable to hate. Yet, inside him, I felt a shadow looming behind his amiable persona. He was such a good actor that he had fooled himself. The Greek pantheon had hurt him more than Adam himself would care to admit. Are you sure giving him such power is wise? I asked my husband Jupiter. It would be bad if he turned against us. He is very powerful, Juno, too powerful. Jupiter sighed, we need to act carefully. His hate, he controls it well, but you saw it, he hates the Greeks, with great force. What if he decided we are part of that? Part of what? I asked. It's no secret the Greeks and us are one and the same, two sides of a coin. Jupiter sighed, while it's true we are vastly different to them. We can't deny the fact we are connected to them, so imagine if his hate extended to us. I see, befriending him now by showing him some trust and that we are better that our counterparts will avoid him ever targeting us. But, still, if he was such a possible threat, why were we entertaining the idea of having him here? Killing him now would make things easier for us if he actually posed a threat, but, still, wouldn't be best to simply eliminate him before he grows too strong? Juno, the kid has no ambition, Jupiter chuckled, out of all the humans, or gods I have encountered, he is the first one that doesn't look at me, and immediately wants my throne, in fact is the opposite. Someone like that, is someone I want to have close. That's a very good reason I suppose, I sighed, wondering how much things would change now that Adamus had joined our pantheon. It seems he already started interacting with the campers. Jupiter sighed, rubbing his temples, he is pranking the entire camp. Chapter 69. Great power comes with PSFF. Okay, but in all seriousness great power comes with I can't even. Anyway, after my very weird job interview with the Roman Pantheon where I acquired my godly realm, I immediately turned to Camp Jupiter, pranking every single one of the kids inside the camp. It was refreshing, seeing their faces wondering what the fuck was going on as every single one of them felt compelled to sing like it was a musical. In my defense Jupiter only said not to prank him. Something I will circumvent later. But for now I had followed his rules. For now. Can you take your curse off them? Vesta inquired, repressing a giggle. I knew she wanted to join the dark side, unlike Kronos I had cookies. Delicious chocolate chips with extra chips cookies. Oh, come on, is not that bad, I chuckled. Vesta narrowed her eyes at me, and subsequently pointed to the camp, is it? We're all in this together. Under a curse, that we are. We're all singing Demi-Gods. And he sees that. We're all in this together. And it shows, when we stand singing like idiots. Hand in hand, he made our nightmares come true. Oh. Everybody now. Everyone at the camp. I hummed, I see your point, they have been singing for half an hour, I suppose that's enough mischief for a day. I think I even saw some kids crying, and even their crying was harmonic and melodic. Maybe I had taken my prank a bit too far. Probably, don't really care. Will you remove the curse? Vesta inquired once again, and I nodded, the light side had won for now, but soon I would come to corrupt Vesta with brownies and cookies, and of course, evil. I mean pranks. Mwahahahahaha. Is that something I should worry about? Vesta snorted. Ha! I made her snort, your cartoony evil laugh. No, I shook my head off, realizing I had been laughing like a madman, with a flash I had pulled out of somewhere illuminating my face. All right, time to unprank some kids. At that I snapped my fingers, erasing the High School Musical budget curse of them. Thanks, Vesta smiled. Well, it was getting old. For some reason they kept singing we are all in this together over and over again. These kids need a creativity boost. I winked at her. I think most of them will fear you after this. Be ready to not get any offerings, Vesta smirked. Oh, no. I won't get the apple juice they don't want at lunch, the pain overwhelms me. I rolled my eyes at that. Sometimes they offer me pizza. So that's nice, Vesta chuckled, showing my corruption was slowly sinking in. After talking for a bit with Vesta, I decided to go back to Valhalla to share my progress with Hestia and the rest. Hestia, as expected, was shocked to see I was now a Roman god, but was happy I was okay. As for Gunilla, I think it's pretty obvious. I flexed my title around her every time the situation called for it. Alright. I flexed the title even when it didn't make any sense in the conversation. Alright, I simply recorded myself saying Adam is a sexy god over and over again and cursed Gunilla to hear it. Finny, I cursed all the Valkyries to hear it. As for Odin and Thor, well, that's where things got messy, and not necessarily in a bad way, you see. Odin had foresaw my ascension. We'll talk about not telling me shit with him later. Anyhow, Odin had used his very unfair power to see the future, to see I would come back a fully fledged super sexy god from my trip, and subsequently told Thor, who had claimed over and over again I was his best buddy, so like a good bro, he is. He went out to celebrate, but, in the process someone stole his hammer. Yep. Mjolnir. Thor. Adam, you two must go and retrieve Mjolnir, Odin informed us with a wicked smile. You must both dress as women, infiltrating the giant kingdom. Say what now? I asked with a very, very fake smile. Not again, Thor groaned. The giants are once again demanding Freya, Odin sighed. They want to exchange the hammer for her, so you two will trick them. I'm sorry, Adam here. I kinda missed the part where Thor losing his hammer was my problem. That's what I wanted to say. But instead, sure, fuck it, let's go. Know it. On the bride roll. Thor declared. Thor. I will delete your Netflix account if you try to push me to wear a wedding dress. I threatened. Fine. I still have the old dress anyways, and it still fits, Thor pouted. How do you know that? I asked, and never got an answer. It was probably for the best. It took us 8 hours to get ready. Apparently the giants in Asgard had this neat ability to see behind magic, meaning transforming into a woman would be useless, so here I was, dressing like a tomboy. What if I have to be a lady? I will be a lesbian. Thor, next time, leave your hammer in your room please. I sighed, wondering why was I doing this. Oh. Yeah. I owned Asgard more than I could possibly imagined. Having Hestia here was more than enough to push me into this. Maybe this was karma for pranking so many innocent kids. I am sorry my friend, Thor muttered, and I died, right there, the end of Adam. What can I say, seeing him fully dressed as a bride? Thor, the big 6'1.5" tall bride with a beard and makeup, was too much for me. Maybe I would not suffer this as much as I thought I would. It's not funny, Thor cried, and that only made me laugh ever harder. How could giants fall for this? This was the worst trap ever. Chapter 70. The giants were idiots, the very definition of that word. There was no other way to describe their limited brain power they wielded. Why did I say this? Well, once again, they believed in the very poorly planned plan of Thor dressing as a bride. I mean, how hard it was to notice the bride had a beard, was 6 foot tall, and had well-defined muscles. Heck, even I would have been a good tell for this mission being wrong, but they immediately believed me when I said I was Freya's lesbian lady in waiting. But if that wasn't enough to tell, something was wrong. The retarded giants still didn't suspect of us. When Thor ate a fucking cow by himself, like a full cow head to toes, they simply shrugged it off. To be honest, I felt like dressing up was just Odin's way to troll us. I am pretty sure we would have been able to trick the giants without any makeup. Take this, lovely wife, the giant smiled, handing Thor his hammer. You can hold the hammer I stole from Thor. Ah. How can they be so stupid? You stole this from Thor? Thor, the bride asked, holding the hammer tight. That's hilarious, because I am Thor. With that he broke his wedding dress, and proceeded to beat the ever-living crap of the giant king. The bride is beating the king. The giants shouted in alarm. For the love of the bride is Thor. I shouted, how could they still think Thor was a woman? Thor. One of the giants muttered, tilting his head to the side. Yes. Was this it? Would they finally understand the situation? I see. Thor is a woman. I almost fractured my skull at that with a sound barrier breaking facepalm. I'm surrounded by idiots, I groaned, rubbing my temples. I always thought her beard was too well kept to be the beard of a man, a random giant added, nodding as if he finally understood something. That's it. I'm killing you all. After that, I started massacring the giants. They were too stupid to be allowed in the same universe I was in. After the battle, where we killed a few thousand giants, and recovered the hammer Thor had let the mentally disabled giants take from him, it was time to go back to Asgard. I knew we would be great brothers in battle, Thor exclaimed, grinning with delight. I was crushing skulls, while you for some reason lectured each and every single one of them why they were idiots, and how they should be grateful you were ending their idiotic lives, all while constantly repeating you couldn't believe they believed I was a woman. Thor, you are the opposite of anything remotely feminine, I sighed, my eyes narrowing at him, the fact they believed. Thor, not your persona, Thor was a woman, was, too much, I mean it already was very stupid the fact they thought you were Freya, but after you broke your dress and they still thought you were a female, it was too much. I see, well, they are not known for their grey intelligence, Thor barked in laughter. Thor, you let them, not once, but twice. To take your symbol of power, I stated, with a chuckle, it makes me think you are even more mentally challenged than them, and as we've seen today, that threshold is vast. Hey, I see your point, Thor sighed, concurring with me. Well, that was the first step, accepting there was a problem. Good, now let's go. I really want to sleep this memory off, I chuckled. We could drink it off? Thor offered with a hopeful smile. That's a great idea, I need a drink. I accepted his invitation, why not? Odin point of view. Being me was great, why? Well, I got to enjoy seeing others embarrass themselves, like I was doing right now, seeing Thor and Adam, on their mission to recover Thor's hammer. You are enjoying yourself a little too much, Frigg scolded, a frown slowly forming on her face. I am, I bellowed in laughter. How could I not enjoy seeing Thor as a bride and Adam lecturing the giants on how stupid they were, all while looking like a tomboy lesbian? Sometimes you are just a big child, Frigg giggled. Did they finish the quest? She asked. They did, I nodded. And are you ever gonna tell them the mission was and has ever been unnecessary, because you have always been able to summon the hammer to you, regardless of where it is? Frigg inquired. Let's keep that between us, can we? I chuckled nervously. I suppose I could, Frigg smiled, if you do something for me. And that's how the blackmail I had foreseen coming from my wife had finally arrived. Did I regret it? No, seeing Thor and Adam making a fool of themselves was worth every single second of this. I will do as you please, I smiled. Vesta point of view. Adam was different to anyone in the Roman pantheon. He was childish, yet serious, loving yet hating. I could see the wild flames of hate swirling inside of him. And yet, with all that anger, he was able to act as if nothing was bothering him. He was a mystery, one that I couldn't help but find myself digging deeper and deeper. It was vexing to no end. Vesta, Jupiter said, entering my room. Jupiter, I bowed slightly. What can I do for you? I wanted to ask you about your opinion of Adamus, Jupiter replied. Well, there isn't much to say. He's a good kid, that much I can tell, but he has been hurt a lot, no matter how much he lies to himself about that, I stated, with a frown. I know that much, Jupiter sighed. I think we should be on the green with him as long as we don't betray him, I added. So you came to the same conclusion. Jupiter sighed. Juno is not sure of keeping him here, but I have a feeling he will be a great asset to us if handled carefully. I think I can befriend him. He seems to like me, maybe just because I am the Roman aspect of Hestia, but he seems to be fond of me. I sighed, so don't worry, leaving out the fact I was somehow fond of him too already. This marks the end of part 14 of the story Percy Jackson, the God of Magic. Thank you for listening. Please like the video and hit the subscribe button to listen more. Hit the bell icon to get notified of all the new content uploaded to the channel ASAP.